my mic's really loud. 6 minutes past 7 on a Wednesday evening, and I love this. Community people tonight, Newhaven Coastguard. And I've got in front of me Barry Johnson and Karl Davenport. We've already said hello. Let's start with you, Barry. What's your actual title?
We're Coastguard Rescue Officers. In the old days, it used to be called Auxiliary Coastguards.
Okay.
It's a posher title now, isn't it?
Yeah.
You sound more official.
Yeah, more money?
Well, unfortunately, we're volunteers, so money doesn't come into it.
Okay, and you're based where?
So we're from the Newhaven Coastguard team. We're based just down on the industrial estate. We used to have a station next to what was the Sheffield pub, but we've kind of outgrown that. We got a new vehicle in 2017, which is quite a bit bigger and much better equipped than our trusty old Land Rover 90 that we had. So we needed a bigger station. It's much better equipped. We've got room for training in the station. Our old station was pretty much like a one up, one down house.
Yeah.
So we can train, get other flank teams in for training.
Okay, and I wanted to just talk, just off air, we were chatting about how the process works. So someone sees an incident, or someone's aware of an incident, they dial 999.
Yeah. And some people are reluctant to dial 999. So first thing I say is, if you see something, you think somebody is in trouble, on the cliff, on the beach, in the water, call us. Just call 999 straight away. Don't hesitate, because especially if someone's in the water, time is critical.
Yeah.
We would rather, and it's happened, go to Saltdean, for instance, because that's happened, but somebody thought they'd seen someone in the water, and it's turned out to be a marker buoy.
Yeah, okay. So the 999 goes through to what, a central call centre?
Yeah, so if you dial 999, obviously it goes through to the emergency operator. They'll say which service you require. A lot of the time people don't actually know about the Coast Guard, so they might ask for the police or the fire, but it will eventually get routed to the correct place.
Right.
And then that will go through to what usually are National Maritime Operations Centre. It's called the NMOC, which is in Fareham.
Yeah.
That's a massive, fairly new control centre. About 2016, I think that came along.
Yeah.
And they will then, that will straight away go to an operator. They'll assess what's coming in, the information that's coming in. If need be, they'll upscale it to someone that's a higher rank, and he'll decide if they're going to deploy a lifeboat, a helicopter, a Coast Guard team,
Okay.
police, fire, or everyone. You know,
depends on what.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take a scenario then that the call comes in. Someone says, "I've seen someone in the sea." It clearly falls within the remit of the Coast Guard.
Yep.
You get in the old days, you'd got a pager. But
we used to have a bleepy little pager that used to vibrate on your leg, and you could set it off if you wanted to yourself to get out of a boring meeting. Not that anyone ever did that, obviously.
No.
But now it's a new tasking and alerting system, so it comes through to our mobile phones. We'll get a text, and it will say attendance request, person in the water, sea forward. It will give us a rendezvous point, so it might say Martello Tower. It may tell us Newhaven lifeboat also deployed, helicopter 163, which is the one from Lydd, or 175, which is the one from Leon Solent.
Yeah.
Normally here it would be the one from Lydd. So we get basic information. We then have a series of numbers. So like 1 would be going directly to the scene, and so we send a text back. So our control room knows exactly that, for instance, 5 Coast Guards from Newhaven are attending. 3 of them are going directly, 2 of them are going to the station.
Yeah.
So they know exactly what's happening without... In the old days, they had to take... If it was a big incident and they paged 2 teams and the teams had lots of availability, they'd take 14 phone calls.
Yes.
And then the lifeboat would be phoning in, or whoever. So it saved them having to do that. So straight away they can concentrate on coordinating the incident.
Okay. All right. I'm going to ask you, Karl, because I know you're a bit reluctant to chat when he's chatting.
Can't normally shut him up.
You get the same message, obviously, and then you go through the same process.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So we get the text, and if we can respond, we'll either, as Barry says, go to the station and collect the vehicle, or go direct to scene.
Yeah. Yeah, as long as someone turns up with a kit in the vehicle, then that's... I
Yes,
suppose that's
we've got to have a minimum of 2 people in the vehicle at all times. So one to operate the radio and the other one to drive. So
And what's your title again? Are you...
I'm a Coast Guard rescue officer, the same as Barry, but I'm also officer in charge trained and also rope rescue technician trained.
Okay. So do you end up... I'm trying to think. 4 of you turn up. If you're all the same rank, does one take control of that situation? Or
An officer in charge person. So if Karl was the only OIC there, officer in charge, sorry, I've got to leave my phone on.
Yeah.
If Karl was the only OIC there, then he would be in charge.
Okay.
Somebody else that may already be there that's an OIC, so they would take charge.
Yeah.
It's just, there's no preference really, just
No.
somebody say, right,
suppose-
I'm OIC.
It's the incident that dictates to a certain extent.
And 9 times out of 10, the OIC doesn't actually get actively involved.
No.
They would stand back, because if you're actively involved, you can't watch what's going on around you.
No.
So they would sort of be standing back and going, "Oh, you're not doing that right," or "Can you come over here and help them do that?"
Okay, yeah, I understand all that. All right, I'll tell you what, let's play a bit of music, and we'll come. I've got loads of questions I want to ask you, and I'm very conscious also you're both on call.
So we'll come back next week.
All right, let's play some music. Coast Guard, Barry Johnson and Karl Davenport, and we were chatting again off air, safety, and these people who decide it's suitable to go up on the cliffs and take selfies.
Yeah, I mean, anyone that's local knows what the cliffs are like here. We've had some massive cliff falls in the last couple of years, thousands of tons of chalk. That you don't get a warning. 1 minute it's there, it goes. Karl actually works at the port, and he saw it on the camera on one occasion, and it just goes. So if you're standing on it,
Yeah, you got no.
you will not have time to get away.
No.
So standing on the edge of the cliff, we always recommend that you stand a good, sort of try and walk a good 10 metres away at least from the edge of the cliff. If there's a footpath, follow it. But the danger's not all just on the top, you've got danger underneath as well.
That's
So again, if you're underneath, and it could just be small rocks, but if they're falling from 300 foot, it's going to hurt you if it hits you on the head. So our recommendation is, if you think the cliff's about 100 foot, try and walk 100 foot away from the bottom of the cliff. I know it's not always possible, but it just gives you a bit of chance.
But we see it on Facebook, don't we? In the summer, we see it every
day.
Every Sunday, there'd be people sitting right on the top of splash.
Dangling their legs over.
Dangling, and you think, why would you do that? On all seriousness, you have to pick up the aftermath of this.
Indeed,
don't you?
yeah.
And pretty much, and I can say this, you probably can't, but it's usually a recovery stage at that stage. Not many people are going to fall off a Seaford Head, are they?
Not survive, no.
And survive. No.
We've had a dog that survived.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another issue, isn't it, dogs?
Yes.
Because I was talking to RNLI a couple of weeks ago, and they were saying 10 or 12 dogs a year or something.
Yeah, that's just in our area, from normally Seaford Head through to kind of Beachy Head, but because Peacehaven area there is a fence most of the way.
Right.
But yeah, again, a dog, if it gets locked in a rabbit or a bird, it will chase it. And we've had people where it's happened. I never believed my dog would do that. I was calling it, it didn't come back. Once they get locked onto something, they're in dog pursuit mode, and they don't sense the edge of the cliff, and they will just run over the edge of the cliff.
And I actually think that's quite distressing.
It's very distressing, yeah. I mean,
and especially for you lads, because if you got to the recovery stage, you can't always get the lifeboat in or the helicopter in. So presumably it means one of you.
Well, Karl is, when you said he's a rope technician, that means he goes over the cliff.
You're the one that then goes.
He's one of the team that go over the cliff, so he will go down. In that case, we have a specialist dog bag for live dogs or dogs that haven't made it really, and basically with a pair of gloves on, obviously pick up there and take, and then we're taking it back to the top where 9 times out of 10 the owner's there.
Yeah.
And then it's all very emotional.
Your lads have put their life at risk as well, haven't they? Because it isn't just sailing off a nice safe cliff, as we've said. This cliff falls, you're hammering in some stakes,
big metal stakes,
some stakes, pretty much. And how do you get back up again then? You get winched back up, presumably.
Yeah, we've got systems in place where we can be. If it's a large cliff, then we'd put in a winch essentially.
Okay.
Because obviously the cliff man's fairly. With all the kit, it's a lot to carry up. So
going down's quite easy, isn't it?
Yes, gravity, pretty much.
Okay, and I mean, obviously things like the wind out there. Seaford Head is very windy as well, isn't it? I keep talking about Seaford, but actually you go right down to Burling Gap, so...
We go to Beachy Head. We've been past Beachy Head, I think, before. We go west. We've sometimes back up the Shoreham team, not that there's many cliffs there, but with their stuff. And we go inland as well. We have, I think I discussed with you in 2000, before I was on the team, with the big floods in Upfield. Our team was up there for like a week.
Yeah, because it isn't just coastal, is it?
No. Although with the Coast Guard, we can be deployed anywhere.
Yeah. So, worst case scenario then, a question for both of you really. I mean, God forbid you had a major incident, say, with a ferry, or you'd had an alert of a fire on a ferry, or that ferry recently out, wherever it was, the big one.
Well, the one that... The cruise ship.
The cruise ship, yeah. I mean, you're then looking at a major incident, aren't you?
Yeah.
Which takes a lot of coordinating. It wouldn't just be the one lifeboat, then it'd be...
I would imagine if that was in the English Channel, we'd be several lifeboats, a couple of helicopters. I mean, I think they airlifted 300 odd people off of that cruise ship, didn't they?
Yeah. And in pretty difficult conditions. But I mean, so things like oil spillage, you'd be involved in? Pollution?
Well, not so much ourselves in dealing with it, but the Coast Guard it would be reported to the Coast Guard, so they'd have resources to be able to deal with it. So obviously with sinkings and so forth, there could be pollution issues. So
right, I'm with you.
Yeah.
And we were chatting again off here about dolphins and whales, which I would never have thought of. But you were telling me that you were involved in it was a rescue of a whale, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, so when was it? Just November, I think it was, October, November last year. We had a Sowersby beaked whale beach at Saltdean, a really incredibly rare whale, so we were told.
Right.
Not a huge whale, looks like an overgrown dolphin. Still weighed about 1.5 tons, I think. And that sadly beached and was we couldn't rescue it. But we then had to recover it and wait for it to be taken away. So if you see a whale, or we don't get many of them here, but dolphins and porpoises, they're actually classed as the Queen's fish. So we get tasked to them.
I
didn't know that. Yes.
We actually have to kind of go and measure them and try and establish certain things. I won't go into too many details, but and then that goes off to the Natural History Museum.
Right.
So all that information goes off. Sometimes they will collect a dead whale, porpoise, whatever, to do an autopsy to try and establish
the cause of
death. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. All right, that's loads of questions. Let's play.
Time zooms past.
I know, yeah. And the other thing, listener, Barry used to be a presenter here, so I'm very conscious that he knows exactly what I'm doing and what I'm doing wrong. So he had a show for about 3 years here, so I'm conscious of him looking at me. Right, let's have a little listen to them. This is Community People. My guests tonight, HM Coastguard, Barry Johnson and Karl Davenport, and we've been chatting. Oh, sorry, I'll stop rattling my papers. We've been chatting off air a little bit about the dog situation again, and we really want to enhance this keep them on leads, isn't it?
It is. It's keep them on leads. If you're not just by the cliff, but near the cliff, because they will run and they will chase things. And we see grown men and crying their eyes out because their dog's gone over the cliff. And it's distressing. Many people see a dog as a member of the family.
Yeah. And as I said to you as well, it's putting your members at risk as well. Even though they've got a couple of ropes and they're tethered, there's still danger, isn't there?
There is.
And poor old Karl, I feel sorry for him because he's the one. He's the one that gets locked off.
He looks like the hero. Then that's the thing.
And you were telling me also about this situation. Obviously, you can't give the name or anything, but in Peacehaven.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I'll just say before we go on to that is that if your dog does go over the cliff, never, ever, ever, and this is not just over the cliff, in the water, in rough seas, never attempt self-rescue, because 9 times out of 10, especially in the water, the dog will get out, and people do die trying to rescue their pets. Again, straight away, call us. We can get the lifeboat, the helicopter, whatever, But yeah, so, I mean, a real scenario that we had recently, 1 o'clock in the morning, a guy's taking his dog out up around Peacehaven without a lead. He lives near the cliff, did it every night. Dog disappeared. He searched for the dog on his own in the dark for about an hour. He then thought, dog's gone over the cliff. He was going to go down to the promenade at this end of Peacehaven and walk under the cliffs, like under where the Rushy Hill caravan site is, on his own at 1 o'clock in the morning. I can tell you now that none of our phones work down there, so no phone signal. So if he had done that and he had fallen over and bumped his head, broke his leg, this whole area is covered by the tide when the tide comes in. Okay. So it doesn't take much to work out what would have happened. Nobody would have known where he was. Luckily, he phoned his daughter and said, "Oh, the dog's gone missing," and I'm going to. And she said, "No, call the Coast Guard." So she said to him, "Call the Coast Guard." So he did, and we attended. We had a search team that went out and searched the area. We couldn't find anything. So we left him. He went home. We'd got back to the station, done all the paperwork, about to leave, and he messaged and said, "I'm so sorry, the dog's just come back." Been down the pub or something, I don't know. And he felt that he'd wasted our time. But again, he hadn't waited. He did exactly the right thing, because, as I said, if he'd gone under there on his own at 1 o'clock in the morning, injured himself, knocked himself out, because there's deep gullies along there. You step down and you're almost up to your waist. It's slippery, really slippery in places.
Trouble is, people, we all do it, don't we? We don't think straight in certain scenarios.
Yeah, exactly.
And thankfully, by the sound of it, his daughter was the one who was in the cold light of day, was thinking, "Well, hang on a sec, don't do this."
Yeah. Well, maybe she's, in a way, like I was saying about our officers in charge, she was stood back from what was going on and was able to put a different thought on it and say, thankfully she did, and thankfully the dog was fine. But that was a real-life recent scenario where something could have gone horribly wrong, and he did exactly the right thing. And we would never, ever say, "Oh, he shouldn't have called us, what a waste of time." We wouldn't say that, because it was the right thing to do.
Excellent. And we were chatting, Karl, about safety as well, weren't we? People go out ill-equipped. We were chatting about life jackets. What's the point of having a life jacket?
Yeah, I think one of the mottos of the Coast Guard, a life jacket is useless unless worn, which is true, really. So if you go out on your boat and you've got your life jacket in the front hold and something happens, you fall overboard or something happens to the boat and you're not wearing a life jacket, then a lot of the life jackets these days are self-inflating. So if you got knocked out or fell into the water, they would self-inflate and turn you the right way round. So you'd stand a chance. So
they wouldn't if you weren't wearing them, obviously.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you find, by and large, people are well equipped out on the sea, or I mean, again, I go back a couple of weeks ago, and the RNLI was saying they pick people up who are out there in shorts, in the middle of the channel. It's just people don't realise how dangerous it is.
It's better to have the equipment, but obviously it costs people money. So, and maybe they don't realise that they, should have a certain amount of safety equipment just in case.
Yeah, I think people. I'm not putting everyone in the same category, but people perhaps come down from London, they've got their jet ski on the back of their car, or we'll go out in the sea, totally ill-equipped. No one knows they're out there. And suddenly there's a disaster, and you look afterwards and think, well, how on earth did that happen? It's just not being prepared, is it, for a situation? Yeah. And we were chatting again. Sorry, I'm asking Barry questions now. We were talking about this canoes and kayaks and surfboards, which to me, if you explain it to the listener, it's absolutely a brilliant idea, I thought.
Yeah, so I mean, again, a scenario happened at Shoreham, I think that was last year. A paddle board, I think it was, or a surfboard washed up on the beach. Somebody phoned the Coast Guard, said, "I found this board on the beach." So they sent the local Coast Guard team. They had a good look round. They couldn't find anyone. Right, we now potentially have someone missing. So two lifeboats were called. A helicopter was called. So we're now into, not the money should come into it, but we're now into big money and tying up assets. So you can get from HM Coast Guard website, which I will say is quite hard to navigate, but I'll give you some more information on that in a minute. You can get waterproof stickers that you can stick on a kayak, a canoe, a surfboard, kiteboard, and you write on it with an indelible pen, and it just says, if found, and then it's got, you put your details in.
I'm with you. Okay.
and that could just, phone up. Oh yeah, I'm at home. I lost my surfboard. Couldn't find it.
So we're talking a scenario here there where
It's preventative.
A piece of equipment washes up somewhere without its owner, and then straight away there's a search possibly in place.
Yes,
probably more than possibly.
Yeah. Okay. And by this sticker on the bit of equipment saying, "Look, please ring this number."
Yeah.
Okay. Very interesting.
So it's a bit hard to explain, but if people go to our Facebook site, Newhaven Coastguard, there is a post on there. I'll try and repost it when I get in, so it goes to the top, and it gives you the links to go to on the Coastguard on the main Coastguard website, and you can get these stickers free of charge. I think they even send them free of charge. I mean, there's a site that's recently started around here called Lost Site Kiteboards and Surfboards or something like that, and they've got it pinned to the top. And people are ordering them in their hundreds because we didn't know about this.
It's so obvious when you hear it, and you think, well, yeah,
it's a good idea.
It's so simple as well, isn't it? It doesn't cost you anything. There's no weight involved.
No.
And it saves. And can we talk about? I mean, we've talked about the helicopter a couple of times, and we've talked about. We're up for time.
No, I'm fine. I'm fine. That's me DJ thing. See.
Yeah, see, Barry ex DJ. He's looking at time. He's watching my timing now. Make sure I'm doing this right. 2 helicopters. One is Lid, and the other one is Port Solent. Average flying time, do you know that?
To here, the Lid one is about 20 minutes. I think we're pretty much in the middle. I think they're both about 20 minutes if they're in the aircraft. They're not manned overnight, but they are on call, so I think it's about another 20 minutes, so about 40 minutes.
So
at 3 o'clock in the morning,
Yes, yeah. And what's their duration time? I mean, can they just fly for a couple of hours, or?
It depends. If they're hovering, they use a lot more fuel than if they're flying.
They work more efficiently, I think, when it's windy.
Yes, because it gives them the lift.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they can refuel at Shoreham. They've got a spot there, so.
So if it's continuing, they will go to Shoreham. Yeah.
And how many? Because you were saying that so far this year you've had 58 shouts already, which is way above. Where you were last year.
So I think when we got to 50, which was about the beginning of April, maybe end of March, I looked, and it wasn't until the 12th of June last year that we reached 50. So we're way busier this year.
Yeah, and only going to get worse with the summer months as well.
Well, hopefully not.
Well, I suppose it's inevitable, though, isn't it? You're going to get more visitors, more people walking along the cliffs, more people walking along the beach, more people taking their inflatables out. It's just self-perpetuating. How many of those, roughly, of those 58, would you say involve the helicopter?
It's a bit difficult because a lot of them we can't talk about, but 50%, I would think.
Yes, okay. Yes, I know there's certain things we can't discuss tonight, and I'm very conscious of that, and I'm steering clear of it. But I'm sure the listener probably realises that there are other circumstances that you get involved in, sadly. And a lot of those are going to involve a helicopter.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so we talked about life jackets, safety, flares you were chatting about, people out-of-date flares. People think they've got a flare there, that's fine.
Yeah.
A bit like fire extinguishers, I suppose, isn't it?
Well, yeah. So distress flares, especially the parachute flares, they do something like 200 metres a second. So they're not domestic fireworks. They're dangerous, and when they go out of date, they can then become unstable. So some people just throw them over the side or let them off.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it is actually an offence under the Firearms Act to fire a parachute flare unless you're in distress.
Even on fireworks night?
Even on fireworks. Some people save it up bonfire night, we'll get away with it. But you could technically be charged under the Firearms Act.
Right, because it's, in theory...
It's not a domestic firework.
No,
domestic fireworks are obviously graded for how much explosives they got and then what they do. Flares are normally going to be let off out at sea where there's no buildings for them to hit and stuff like that. They can be unpredictable. We've been on jobs where, we use illumination flares, and sometimes you point them up and they don't always go straight up. They might veer off at an angle depending on the wind and stuff like that. So they are quite dangerous. The problem is that there's not many places to actually dispose of them, and here, to my knowledge, certainly. You can take them to to Fareham Coastguard Station or Dover Coastguard Station, but you must phone them first and pre-arrange it because they have to go into a licensed storage.
Right. I wouldn't fancy taking them in the car for a start.
It's quite a way.
I'll tell you what, to play a bit of music and we come back. This is I'm going to try and keep these lads after the 8 o'clock news because so
I have
many...
to speak to my agent.
It's coming up to 4 minutes past 8 on Wednesday evening. I'm Len Fisher, live here on Seahaven FM, community people, and my guests tonight, Barry Johnson and Karl Davenport from HM Coastguard locally. And they kindly decided to stay on for another 15 or 20 minutes. Although
it's time and a half now.
It's okay, yeah. Put the bill in, mate. That's all right, I'll cover that. You nearly got a shout just now, didn't you? Was that Shoreham?
No, Shoreham Lifeboat. We've just been told has been called for something, but don't know what.
Right. So, I've got you for another 20 minutes at least. Right, we were chatting off air again, Karl, about ordnance and sometimes stuff that gets washed up or exposed on the beach. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, we get people go for walks and come across strange objects, and they could look like old wartime, bombs, for example, really. That's bullets, all sorts of things. So we, or our colleagues at the police, get a call. We go down and investigate. We've got a procedure to deal with looking at the ordnance, so we wouldn't actually touch it. We'd try and measure it, or try and put something near to it to get a gauge of the scale.
I'm with you, yes.
We'd then send, obviously, the pictures and information off to the bomb disposal people through the Coast Guard Centre. They'd look at it, and if it looked interesting to them, or wartime, or possibly still live because they're the experts, they then come down and do a controlled explosion.
Okay.
So it's important that if you do see something, don't touch it.
Yeah, don't fiddle
and
around with it.
if in doubt, give us a call, give the Coast Guard a call, or the police.
And where do the bomb disposal? Are they local or?
One's Portsmouth. I'm not sure where the other one is.
It's a fair old way still, then, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a long way. Yeah.
So you would.
So we would normally cordon off the area.
Yes. Okay.
Depending on what information they give us back from the photographs, they might say, well, this is, you need to set up 100 metres, 200 metres. Just depends on what it is, really.
Okay.
And some of these things don't look like what you did because they've been in the sea for X years. They don't look like what you'd expect them to look like.
No.
On the other hand, we've been called to things where I can remember we were called, somebody said there was a grenade on the beach and it was the inside part of an electrical motor. But because it had been in the sea for so long, it did look like one of the sort of German stick grenade things.
Oh, yes, yeah. We've seen the films, yes. I suppose it's back to the better safe than sorry, though, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
And what about, we were chatting about recruiting. I mean, you're always looking for new...
we
Coast
are.
Guards.
Yeah, we're a couple of members short on the Newhaven team at the moment. We've got a thing, it's actually pinned to the top of the Newhaven Coastguard Facebook page. So if you are possibly interested and you want to come in and have a chat with our Senior Coastal Operations Officer, or SCO for short, because everything's an acronym these days, all his details are on there. His email address, his name's Graham. If you're interested, to come and have a chat with him, and he'll tell you a bit about what's involved.
What's the prerequisite for that? Then you've obviously got to be reasonably fit. You've got to presumably live and work locally.
To a point, you don't have to attend every call, but obviously there's no point being in it if you attend one call a year.
No.
Because of the amount of training and stuff that has to go in. So, I mean, for instance, I'm a shift worker, so when I'm on shift, I can't attend shouts, we call them shouts, just because of fatigue and stuff like that. But now I'm currently on sort of rest days, so I'm on call. Some people it really depends what the job you're doing. We've got people that live in Peacehaven, people that live in Seaford, Newhaven. So it's fairly local, but we kind of say we can respond to the other end of Eastbourne, Shoreham.
Yeah, and you were saying, Karl, you work in the harbour anyway, in the port.
Yeah, I work for the Port Authority as one of the pilot boat coxswains. So,
what does that involve? I know what a pilot does, but do you bring all? You obviously don't bring the ferry in, do you?
No, they have a pilot exemption, so they don't require a pilot.
Right.
So they have to pass an exemption every year. Basically, my job is driving the pilot launch, taking the pilot out to the commercial vessels for the pilots to bring the vessels into the harbour and through the bridge.
Yes.
So I might have one at 4 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Yes,
So
because it keeps flashing up on my screen, but you can't see it behind me. It says Thursday, 11th of April, 2019 at 3:40 tomorrow morning. There is a bridge opening.
that's me.
That'll be you.
Yeah. Early night tonight then.
Yeah. It's, usually, obviously, we're going off piste a bit here, but we cover it because obviously we do traffic here and travel. And the moment the bridge opens, because there's mayhem on the A259.
That's his fault.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Why'd you open it so late? Anyway, sorry. Yeah. So let's go back to training. You got someone listening in tonight who thinks, yeah, I wouldn't mind doing that. I've got a bit of time. I'm fit. I'm able. I want to put something back in the community. I mean, presumably there's a fair amount of training involved.
Yeah, you'll get some fairly intensive training. I think at the moment most of it's being done in Dover. You get your travel expenses and all that kind of stuff covered, and you need to get up to a certain level before you then come out and do stuff with the team. And obviously it's a constant learning thing all the time. Equipment changes. I mean, I've been in the team 10 years. It's still a learning experience. You learn things there. Every incident is different. Even if they're a similar incident, it might get played out in a different manner. So you're constantly learning. And as I say, equipment's improved, upgraded. So again, you're learning to use new equipment.
Yeah. And again, we were chatting off air, Karl, when the lifeboat were in a couple of weeks ago. I was chatting to the chap and he was saying that we're taught, for example, for putting an anchor down. He could go anywhere in the UK and it would always be the same process, whether he was here or in Scotland. It would always be that. So everyone knows what everyone else is doing. And presumably you're the same then as a winch or a winch man, or when you're being winched, the same process is adopted?
Yes, absolutely. If I were to go to a cliff team in Scotland, for example, we're trained to the same standard with exactly the same equipment, so I could jump on their equipment and go over the cliff.
Yeah.
Equally the same for someone coming down from Scotland.
Yeah.
Not that it would happen.
No, but
yes, it's UK-wide similar training. So yeah, very good.
And you were saying, Barry, as well, that what might fit here for training wouldn't necessarily fit in Littlehampton.
No, because to a certain point, our vehicles are being standardised as well, so that if we go to Berlin Gap, everything in their vehicle should be roughly in the same place. But Berlin Gap are a cliff team, Eastbourne are a cliff team, Shoreham don't have any cliffs, so they're not a cliff team. When you go to Littlehampton, because of the amount of mud and stuff there, they've actually got, their teams are trained specifically in mud rescue techniques as well, which we're not. So it depends on what area, what kind of terrain you're covering, to a point as to what you're trained in. All the teams are trained in water rescue, search techniques. But as I say, we're a cliff team. Berlin Gap's a cliff team. Eastbourne's a cliff team. Shoreham.
Yeah. So by and large, most of your call-outs are going to involve the cliffs, aren't they, or the beach?
It's really
roundabout.
Newhaven is very varied. We get a very wide variety of incidents. Excuse me. So yes, searches. We can get involved quite a lot of searches for missing people. Often backing up the police.
Yes.
Again, we're training specific search techniques, which again is just evolving and changing again now. We've just been retrained on some more new techniques, and that's all based on research. I think the one that's just going out was something like 10 years of research of searching for people from toddlers to people with Alzheimer's, and there's specific patterns, like somebody with Alzheimer's will probably walk in a straight line and they won't answer you if they're called. A toddler has got no sense of direction, they could wander off in any direction, and it's all written down, so you fill in a questionnaire as to what you're looking for, and like a toddler can cover something like a mile in an hour or something. I can't remember the exact things, they're all written down, but so whatever your search scenario is, that's all in this book to help you not waste time, if you like.
No. Oh, it's interesting because, again, where I live, I see the helicopter coming over occasionally, and unfortunately, they're looking for someone who's perhaps gone wandering. And it's a really sad case, and you never hear the end. You hear the helicopter go, but because you never hear the end story as to whether the person was found or not. But that's really interesting. Certainly, we've got a load of care homes around here and nursing homes, and people.
Yeah. And you do get people wander off, and sadly, if they've got Alzheimer's or something similar, they may not know where they are.
No, and winter's even obviously more dangerous if they're oh dear, it's quite scary, isn't it? I'll tell you what, let's play a bit of music. Hopefully I can keep these lads another 15 or 20 minutes. We'll see. I'll pay them double time. Really enjoyed this. HM Coastguard, Barry Johnson and Karl Davenport. Been with me for now an hour and 20 minutes, and we were chatting again off air about you get a shout, you got your big heavy vehicle with all the kit in, you got your blue lights on, and some of the road users are.
And the sirens, yeah.
And the sirens. And they still don't know you're behind them.
Yeah, so it's quite difficult. Some people, like, when they see us behind them, they'll just panic and they'll just slam the brakes on. For some reason, people seem to drive past the nice straight bit of road, then stop on the blind corner.
Not funny.
They probably think you're the police.
Yeah.
So if you see not just us but any emergency vehicle and blue lights coming up behind you, don't just panic. Try and find a safe place to stop and stop in a controlled manner. Don't slam the brakes on, because we've got sort of 2 tons plus a vehicle behind you.
Yes.
And sometimes you want to kind of close your eyes and hope.
Are there bad bits around here for negotiation? I mean, Exeat Bridge comes to mind for ambulance.
Exeat Bridge is not too bad. Once you get the other side of it, if it's like rush hour when you've got traffic both ways, there's not hardly enough room for us to get down the middle. So look, the driver of the emergency vehicle might be waving you to carry on moving.
Yes, because he wants you out of the way.
Just carry on moving until you get to a safe place you can pull over. And indicate as well. Let us know what you're doing.
Yes.
Because you don't. Some people do some quite unpredictable things.
And I'm sure that's not unique for you, is it?
No. It's all emergency services. Yeah. We're in a smaller vehicle than the fire brigade and stuff. But they have issues with people getting down narrow roads where people park badly. That's not so much of an issue for us, because obviously we're normally on the coast.
Yes. Yeah. I suppose in some ways it's easier at night, isn't it, with emergency vehicles, because at least you can see the lights coming from a long way. But if you're a bad driver, you're a bad driver. It's not going to make any difference anyway.
I can remember not long after I joined, when we used to have the trusty old Land Rover, we followed a car around the Seaford Road, around the Seaford Bends. It was a convertible. It was in the summer. He had the roof down, and we did the whole length of the Seaford Bends and almost past Bishopstone before he realised we was behind him. And we were going through the 3 different sirens, the blue lights were on, and it's like, how was he not aware that we're behind him? He's in an open-top vehicle. And then it was like, oh, panic,
That's quite scary, isn't it? There's people out there. And I was saying also, Karl, off air, if you're going to an incident in your own vehicle, then obviously no one knows. You're just Joe Public. You are subject to the same rules of the road as everyone else.
Yeah,
you go through a speed camera, you're going to get a ticket.
Yeah, we have to get there when we can in a safe manner, according to the speed limits.
No exemptions.
We've got a visor, a sun visor placard, most of us, with Coastguard Rescue written on. But obviously that doesn't allow us to get anywhere, to incidents any quicker. We use it generally when we get to the incident, just to let them know, it's a Coastguard vehicle. Don't give us a ticket.
Yes.
We're on a job.
Yeah.
But we get there when we can. So with people living in different parts of the area, we can generally get to the incident.
Yes, yeah,
pretty good. But when the traffic's bad, it's bad. So.
I suppose in that respect, it's better than a lifeboat, isn't it? Because the lifeboat has to wait until everyone's at the quay and get on the boat before the boat goes out.
Yeah, they've got to get there first.
All get there from wherever direction that you were.
I think it's pretty much the same with every emergency. The police have to be at the police station. The ambulance have to go to the ambulance station.
Yes.
The lifeboat have to go to the crew have to go to the lifeboat. We don't. Most of our team go in their own vehicles directly to the incident.
We've got all our kit with us.
Yes.
All our PPE.
Everything that we need. PPE, as Barry says.
What's PPE?
Personal protective equipment.
Yeah, safety boots, hat, overalls,
helmets, torches.
Right.
So we could get to the incident, we can look at it and see what's happening, and then when the rescue vehicle arrives, we can deal with the incident. So.
And is it more difficult at night for you? Depends on the incident, but I suppose like anything else, if you can see what you're looking at, it's easier, or...
Yeah,
I mean, would you prefer a daytime shout in the sunshine than an evening call?
either or.
Depends what the incident is, I think.
Right.
To a point. No, it doesn't. There's no preference really. I mean, obviously it's nice in the summer, but we have to wear, regardless of the weather, we have to wear they're basically boiler suits, they're overalls.
Yes, I've seen yours, the blue one with the gold badge.
And on the day of the Shoreham Air disaster, our team was searching Brighton Beach for a missing person. Absolutely packed beach, one of the hottest days of the year, and we still have to have our overalls on and our hat, our crash hat. Because I remember a certain lady saying, "Are you not on a stag night?" So, but we have water and stuff in our search bag, so we do have stuff to sort of have a drink and stuff like that. And obviously that's taken into account when we're doing the search. The team leader will say, "Right, you need to stop for a break." But in a situation like that, I mean, you probably know full well what Brighton Beach is like on a packed day in the height of summer.
Yeah.
And I can remember that because we were just told we were looking for a male in white swimming trunks, and that was the only information we had.
Possible. What do you do for comms then? I mean, do you have radios each?
Yes. Yeah, we've all got a personal issue VHF Marine Band radio. The channel we use isn't a commercially available channel, it's a private channel which is just for search and rescue.
And where would that go through then? Where would the comms go back to Newhaven in your case?
Back through, so where the old Coast Guard lookators, which is now the National Coast Watch.
Oh yes, up on the cliffs,
the big tower next
which is
to
where
it.
our aerial is. Yeah.
Indeed, yes. So pretty much our aerials are there. So that signal was picked up from there and is then transferred by landline, not fibre optic, whatever, down to the National Maritime Operations Centre. However, with the new system that came in a few years ago, if there was, for argument's sake, a fire at the NMOC, that can then be diverted to Liverpool Coast Guard if you want.
I'm with you. Yeah.
We could be run from Scotland, anywhere. I can't remember how many centres there are now, but any centre can patch into any area, any aerial, and they can take over
an incident.
An incident.
Yeah. The trouble is they wouldn't know necessarily they wouldn't know the lay.
They've got the same information on their computers as they would have.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're at Solent and you've flown, for example, down to Seaford Bay 20 times in a year, you know what's down there, don't you? You know where the cliffs are and where you can land.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the operations staff.
I'm
the staff
with you.
in the operations centres. They can, the operations centres around the country, any one of them can patch through the system and take command.
Oh, well, I'm with you.
And actually, on occasion, when it's quiet, they do it as a. You don't know they've done it until sometimes when we get back and phone in, but because they won't say this is Liverpool Coast Guard if you're working with what you assume to be Solent Coast Guard.
Get an accent.
Yeah.
and you say, is that a new control? I don't know. It was actually Liverpool Coast Guard or whatever,
Okay.
But it's just resilience. It can be, if there was a massive storm something and they lost all the power, although everything goes into these centres has doubled up, the electric supply, the gas supply, the comms, everything's doubled up. But if they lost a centre, it can then be taken over.
Just switch to something
from the next centre.
Okay, I've learnt loads. Right, let's play a bit of music.
So's Karl.
Yes, so's
Thanks, Barry.
I'm not certain that Karl actually works for the Coast Guard.
No, he doesn't.
Play a bit of music and then I'll have to let these two lads go because they are on call. Rob State, Wednesday evening. I've got to let my two guests go shortly, but we just want to reiterate some things we talked about tonight. This is Barry.
Yeah, so just to go back over, please, if you're walking on the coast, especially on the cliffs with the dog, keep it on a lead. If the dog does get into trouble on the cliffs or in the water, do not attempt self-rescue. 999 for the Coast Guard. We don't think you're wasting our time.
Okay.
If you're out on a boat and you've got life jackets, they are no good to you if they're down in the forward cabin under your petrol can and your whatever you've got chucked down there, your old smelly raincoat. You need to be wearing it.
Okay.
Because once you fall in the water and the boat's disappearing into the distance, it's no good to you whatsoever, is it?
Yeah.
Out-of-date flares, it is an offence to let them off. The further out of date they come, the more dangerous they can become. So they need to go to a licensed site. Here that's Solent Coast Guard or Dover Coast Guard. You can call them up. If you Google the number for Solent Coast Guard, you will find a non-emergency number. And you can arrange to take them there to be safely disposed of.
Yep. Okay. Ordnance on the beach or anything?
Anything you find on the beach that you think, that looks like a World War II or World War One bomb or part of a bomb, again, don't touch it.
Yep.
If you can take a reference point to something, it's 300 metres east of Martello Tower or something like that, great, that's going to help us locate it, because obviously the quicker we get there, it might be covered up by the tide again.
Yep, I'm with you.
Again, 999 Coast Guard, we will then go and investigate it and then send images to the bomb disposal team, and that'll be dealt with however they tell us to deal with it.
Okay. Don't walk under the cliffs.
No, if you're walking under the cliffs, try and keep a really good safe distance from the cliffs. We recommend that, if possible, estimate the height of the cliff. So if you think it's 100 foot, try and stay the similar distance away. And I know that. And obviously, if you are walking under the cliffs, make sure you check your tide times.
Yeah.
Now we're in British summertime. Make sure your tide table is actually adjusted for the hour, because we do get that in the summer as well.
Yeah, and people think they can walk from Seaford Bay round the corner to Burling Gap, and then
it's really difficult. You can do it, but
you got to know what
you're doing. A lot of the tide apps you can get loads of tide apps, and they're brilliant, but some of them aren't adjusted for British summertime. So you need to make sure that they are.
Okay.
And just for me to finish off, although we get all this praise, and I believe you said the lifeboat crew said the same, we've got girlfriends, wives at home, families at home. It's not just us that's on call, it's them that's on call. When, I say I'm a shift worker, I could get up and see my girlfriend for the first time in a week, apart from the hour when I fall in from work, and within 10 minutes of being out of bed, pager goes off, I could be out all day.
Yes.
Sometimes on occasion, we'll get an incident, and literally we get another incident. We've had 6 or 7 incidents on the trot before, so she won't see me.
It's not,
and we've made plans, and they're gone.
And it's not just that, they're worried about you all the time you're gone, because you are in precarious situations, aren't you? So,
yeah. I mean, my girlfriend was a PCSO when she lived in Cornwall, so she knows the kind of things. She worked with the Coast Guards there. She knows the kind of things we deal with. Yeah. So
it doesn't make it any easier though.
No. But so their support is obviously really important to us as well. The sort of, I've just cooked you a dinner, roast dinner. I've just spent 3 hours cooking your roast dinner. I've got to go, love.
Yeah. Well, I hope you've enjoyed it tonight. It's been really, as far as I'm concerned, it's been enlightening, and loads of information that I didn't know about. And obviously, go on the website, HM Coastguard.
Yeah, so our Facebook site has got the recruiting details pinned to the top. I will try tonight or tomorrow to re-put the sticker link up for the surfboard stickers, so it's near the top.
Really important, that. And
it's just so easy. It saves so much grief.
Yeah.
So,
and Karl, we were chatting. You're going to say hello to someone, I think, aren't you?
Yes. Hi to my mum and dad, Sylvia and Peter.
Right.
We've enjoyed it.
Are they local?
Newhaven, yes.
They're Newhaven.
Yep.
Right. And you got work again. It still keeps flashing up on the screen. 3:40. So you got.
I'm up at 3 o'clock.
You got the bridge.
and he does need beauty sleep.